Biology class, Fatima Convent High School, Chapter 14, Natural Resources. We are moving to the next biogeochemical cycle, that is oxygen cycle. We know that oxygen is the life-giving gas present in the atmosphere around us. We all exist and our lives exist because of oxygen. Now let us see how this oxygen is circulated in the different spheres of the Earth. The oxygen cycle. Oxygen is very abundant element on our Earth. It is found in the elemental form in the atmosphere to the extent of 21%. It also occurs extensively in the combined form in the Earth's crust as well as also in the air in the form of carbon dioxide. In the crust, it is found as oxides of most metals and silicon, and also as carbonates, silicates, nitrates, and other minerals. It is also an essential component of most biological molecules like carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acid, fats, or lipids. But when we talk of the oxygen cycle, we are certainly referring to a cycle that maintains the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. Oxygen from the atmosphere is used up in three processes, mainly combustion, respiration, and in formation of oxides of nitrogen. Oxygen is returned to the atmosphere in only one major process, that is photosynthesis. And in this form, the outline of the oxygen cycle in nature. As I told you before, you should be knowing the pathway, the processes, the component being transferred, and the elements or the agents which are responsible for the transfer. Here, the bacteria are poisoned by elemental oxygen. In fact, every process of nitrogen fixing by bacteria does not take place in presence of oxygen. Now let us see what this oxygen cycle tells us. So, though we usually think of oxygen as being necessary to life in the process of respiration, it might be of interest to you to learn that some forms of life, especially bacteria, are poisoned by elemental oxygen. In fact, even the process of nitrogen fixing by bacteria does not take in the presence of oxygen. So, the oxygen cycle works as the pathway is from atmosphere again to biosphere, and from biosphere and lithosphere, hydrosphere, it goes back to the atmosphere. This is the simplest cycle if you see. Then the atmospheric oxygen is produced by the process of photosynthesis, which enters into the system of biosphere by the process of respiration, and this respired gas gives out carbon dioxide, which forms the photosynthesis component and then gives you the biomolecules or the organic molecules. On breaking down of this, it is again liberated. Same way, respiration releases H2O, which again is utilized in photosynthesis and is liberated during the process of photosynthesis. So the pathway of oxygen cycle is from atmosphere it goes to biosphere to lithosphere as various oxides present in the soil, hydrosphere which contains oxygen in water molecule. Now from this all spheres, it will go back to the atmosphere. So this is the pathway of the oxygen, and the processes involved are now from the atmosphere, it is taken by the process of respiration. We all know during respiration, We take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Now, this carbon dioxide is taken up by the plants through process of photosynthesis, where CO2 is converted into O. This is one pathway of the cycle to be completed. Second is when the hydrocarbons are burned or combusted. It burns in presence of oxygen, that is C, H and O molecule burns by taking up O2 that releases CO2. This CO2 is taken again by process of photosynthesis, which gives back O2. That is one more pathway of the cycle to be moving. This is how oxygen enters into the various spheres and returns back to the atmosphere. This is what is oxygen cycle. Now let us see what is ozone layer. We are very much familiar and we must have heard about the word ozone layer. It is a protective shield of oxygen, but here in normal oxygen atom there are two molecules. In one molecule of oxygen there are two atoms of oxygen. This is called as oxygen. But when you talk about ozone, when one more atom is attached, it forms O3. That is what gives us ozone. So when you have three atoms of oxygen combined together, it is called ozone. Now, actually, ozone is a poisonous gas, about which you will study in 10th standard. But it is a very important gas in the atmosphere because it protects the atmosphere of the earth by shielding it and protecting it from the UV radiation. It does not allow the UV radiation to enter in the atmosphere and maintain the balance of UV radiations in the atmosphere. The elemental oxygen is normally found in form of diatomic molecules. Diatomic is O2. However, in the upper reaches of the atmosphere, the molecule contains three atoms, that is O3 of oxygen is found, and you would need a formula of O3, and this is called as ozone. Unlike the normal diatomic molecules of oxygen, ozone is a poisonous gas, and we are lucky that it is not stable near to the Earth's surface. Otherwise, we would be inhaling poisonous gas. But it performs an essential function where it is found. It absorbs harmful radiations from the sun. This prevents those harmful radiations from reaching the surface of the Earth, where they may damage many forms of life. Recently, it was discovered that this ozone layer has been depleted, means is broken down or getting removed or becoming thinner. Various man-made compounds like CFC, that is carbon compounds, having both fluorine and chlorine, which are very stable and does not degrade by any biological processes, were found to persist in the atmosphere. Hence, once they reach the ozone layer, they would react with the ozone molecule. This results in the reduction of ozone layer, and recently they have discovered a hole in the ozone layer above the Antarctic. It is difficult to imagine the consequences of life on Earth if the ozone layer dwindles further. But many people think that it would be better not to take chance. These people advocate working towards stopping all further damages to the ozone layer. You can see in the figure how the ozone hole is becoming bigger. In October 1980, it was just of this size. Then in 85, within 5 years, it grew this big, and in 1990, it became still bigger. So this is what the ozone hole is. I suppose the concepts of various biogeochemical cycles are clear to you, and you will be able to answer all the questions in the exercise now. Thank you.